right? You got Frank Tavera and Arch across Connecticut. You had Len Bestoff. You had Chris Powell earlier this morning. A lot of favorites. Country Music Month,
That's going great.
Sure. Great way to end the week. I like to end the week as often as I can on a high note. Talking at length with someone who is fighting for all of us. Fighting to protect our liberties. Fighting to protect our freedoms. Fighting to defend the American system of government. Fighting for our Constitution. Fighting for all of us. Good morning. It's Gary Byron, 9/11 here on this Free For All Friday. Glad to have you on board the old morning train. He is a former colleague of mine in the House, and he's gone on to bigger and better things in our state Senate. And I got to tell you, this is a person, usually you have a district. We had a House district, there's a Senate district, and a Senate district is always, bigger. This is a guy, though, when I say that he fights for us, of course he puts his constituents first, but I got to tell you this. He's fighting for you whether you live in his senatorial district or not. There's not many out there where they're protecting our freedoms and our, as I was just mentioning, our liberties. And what an uphill battle it is when you're in the minority party. Sometimes you feel like you're going at it alone. But I want him to know we're watching and you're not alone. Let's welcome back to the show State Senator Rob Sampson. Senator, good morning.
Good morning, Gary. Thank you for that very generous introduction.
Well, I mean, listen, some people fulfill their minimum requirements. Some people go above and beyond and realize, well, I'm not getting paid for this. I mean, you get a salary, but it's not like it's hourly, and and you can't make a living on it, and you just sit there and go, you don't care. You're doing it because you live it. It's in your heart, and there's a deficit, and that it needs to be, issues need to be addressed. You just do. Some people talk. Some people do. You're a doer.
Right. I mean, well, it's like any industry. I think there are some people that have a passion for the things that they do, much like you. I mean, you bring every ounce and fiber of your being to the radio microphone every day, and that's obvious, and people can see that. And you do it because of your love for the craft and your love for the country, and that's why I do what I do, because I'm very concerned about the future of my beloved country that gave me so much opportunity and has allowed me to live such a fulfilling life. And I want to make sure that country exists for future generations. I don't have children myself, but, it's never too late. I still like to, and I want them to grow up in an America that we would recognize.
Yeah, from your lips to God's ears. And you know what it is? I think that the passion in my voice, as you articulated for yourself, you look at future generations, and it was eye-opening getting elected into the legislature because I had an idea in my head as far as what it would be like. You hear stories and you talk to people who were in it, and well, maybe that was how it was then. But you have this vision, or you envision it. Especially as a person who's not in the legislature, you're on the sidelines. You just hear about what you hear. You hear what's on the news. You read what's in the papers or on the internet. This is prior to being elected into the House with you, and then there's the dose of reality. So of being in the fray, on the front lines, if you will, and going through the entire legislative process. And I just feel, wow. Most people are probably like me prior to being elected. They had this thought of what it was like and how laws are made and the bureaucracy that's involved and the horse trading and this and that. Well, let me bring that now, take my experience and bring it to the people and explain the truth, what the reality actually is in layman's terms. So, we've both moved on to bigger things. I think will help our the people of this great state even more. So keep up the great work.
Well, Gary, it goes back to that old joke that I'm certain you heard it too. When you're first elected, your first reaction when you walk in is, asking yourself, geez, how did I get here? And
Yes.
then your second reaction is looking around at all those other people and saying, how did they get here? You know,
yeah, very true. Yeah, that's a true statement. Go ahead.
And you know as well as I do, I mean, even though there's 187 lawmakers, 36 senators, 151 representatives, there is only a handful of people that are making real decisions who have a real impact. And, you know, sadly, most of those folks serve in the majority. But some of us serve in the minority, and we can make things happen or make things not happen, whatever the case may be. But if you're willing to put the effort and work in, you can change the tide of things. I've watched people, take over certain districts and change them from blue to red. And it can continue to happen, and we can eventually have a Republican majority in the state and right the ship. And I believe that with all my heart. Otherwise, I would not invest all the time and effort that I do.
Rob, I think we're in a very small minority. I actually happen to agree with you. I don't think it's all going to happen in one election. I don't think it's going to happen, where we're going to get the House and Senate at the same time. And it's going to be, you have to chip away at it. But I do believe, I really do in my heart of hearts, that we Republicans will have a majority in the House and Senate. One will come before the other, and we just have to make stride. We have to chip away at it every 2 years in the election cycle. But I'm with you, my friend. I do remain an optimistic. Rob, last month you published an op-ed which has this line in it, quote, "Connecticut families are reeling, and the staggering electricity rate increase that includes a preposterous public benefits charge should be the last straw for support of progressive Democrat policies." Okay, end quote. There was a couple of words in there I want you to talk about. It should be the last straw. What do you mean by that? Talk about it.
Well, I mean, I think that people in Connecticut, much like you alluded to in your previous comments, don't really know what's going on in Hartford. I don't think they really know what the particular policy, agenda of each political party is. And but they do know what's happening to them. I mean, they know that their taxes are rising. They know that the cost of gasoline is off the chart. They know that businesses are struggling. And they also know that their electric rates are through the roof. And for me, that should be a signal to them that something's wrong and it's time to consider looking towards state government and making a change.
Okay. People don't know what they don't know. I say that all the time. And you're right. It goes back into something that I was just mentioning where, listen, the Republican Party is not perfect. But pointing your finger at us and saying we created a problem, we couldn't create the problem if we wanted to. We don't have a majority in either chamber. So if people say, oh, well, it's a legislature, you guys are all alike. No, it's just, well, how come you don't do something about it? How often do you hear that? I used to hear about it all the time. We're doing the best that we can, but at the end of the day, we're still in the minority party. We just, by sheer numbers, we can't overturn the bad laws that have been passed. You joined Senate Republican leader Harding and a lot of your fellow Republicans last week at a press conference to unveil the special session CT.com and continue the Republican push to provide relief to the taxpayers. And it made front page news. What's in the front page of today's Hartford Courant? I don't know if you've seen it yet, but it's on the front page. It's today's Hartford Courant. It says Lamont opposes special session on electric rates. Governor warns immediate relief is unlikely. So I guess, and by the way, a couple of weeks ago, we heard the opposite. We heard, call a special session. We should offer some help. He's changed his tune. I don't know what led to that. What kind of ARPA money is available? And why not use it? Because I know it's got to be related to COVID. Well, this is related to COVID, right? The moratorium on our Eversource bills. If the glove fits, why not wear it?
There's a lot in that question, and so many things to get into. I mean, you alluded to the blame game, which I think the Democrats are relying on at this point. Republicans, you can argue about the blame game, and I'm more than happy to do it. I think I'm probably the best equipped person in our whole caucus to go after the Democrats for what they've done, and I can make a very strong case for the fact that they're responsible. But we're focused on solutions. Gary, I mean, this is what the point of our press conference last week and the press conference a couple weeks before that and the press conference that we had in February was about. It was about offering solutions. We knew this was coming. It's not a secret. The things that are driving up our electric rates are predictable. And I can tell you that if we don't address this in the very near future, I mean, within the next several weeks, we are very likely to see another massive increase in the public benefits charge. There's things hanging out there in the wilderness waiting to happen. You've got PURA, which is the bureaucracy that oversees the effectively the approval of electric rates that the providers ask for. They're poised and ready to add this $80 million charge for electric vehicle chargers across the state into that public benefits charge. And worse than that is that there is a contract that may be approved any day now that will increase our electric bills astronomically because they will be purchasing wind power in Long Island Sound for somewhere in the neighborhood of $15 or $16 per kilowatt hour. People are, the Democrats, their number one talking point is Millstone. That's $5 a kilowatt hour. Imagine what people are going to do when the rate becomes 3 times that. There's a lot to unpack in this whole conversation, but the fact of the matter is we have solutions. And we're ready to put them to work. If they allow us to have our special session or we force them into it with political pressure, which is the reason why I'm on the air with you today and the reason why my colleagues all over the state are trying to raise the awareness level to the public so the public demands that special session, we can fix it. We actually have the power in the toolkit to make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, you had a town hall. A meeting in one of your towns in your district in Southington. I think it was like a week ago, and I heard it was packed. Channel 3 even covered it. We were talking about the electricity bills, and it's such a huge issue, which, I know you hear about it wherever you go. Republicans really need to hammer this constantly. It's an election year. I mean, it's gift wrapped for Republicans. If you're running for a state office, whether it's state representative or state senate, and you're not hammering your Democrat incumbent, the one you're challenging, on this, because they can do something in the majority party. They can call a special session and address this, and they're not. If you're not hammering this and you're running for office, shame on you. Well, I got to take a quick break. When we come back, I'm going to committee, the GAE. Democrats had no appetite to strengthen election integrity laws this year, even after Wanda Jeter there in Bridgeport. Why? Why wouldn't they do that?
Well, I think, Gary, the reason is obvious. They like it the way it is. It seems to benefit them. And I know those are bold statements, but the fact of the matter is I think Democrats recognize that it is their voters, as opposed to Republicans, that are hardest to turn out. So the more that they can do to allow for increased turnout, they are, certainly in favor of. And I think that they're well aware that there is a certain percentage of fraud, and that a fraud benefits them. So they're not about to make any changes to improve the situation.
It's talk about not winning. Talk about lack of integrity and not winning based on merit. You're also the ranking senator on the Labor Committee. Just remind us how Senate Democrats, led by a communist award-winning Senator Julie Kushner of Danbury, you passed an absurd slush fund on the final night in session in order to give money to striking workers. I mean, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, I don't even know where to go from there. I mean, it's just one in a long line of absurd policies that gives the state government a significant amount of authority to interfere in private commerce. It's one of the most shocking things for me. Gary, you talked about what your expectations were going into the legislature. One of the things I never expected was the ability of the state government to come and interfere with private contracts between employers and employees, between individual businesses doing business with one another, between landlords and tenants. But they do. They come and they put the weight on the scale, and they do it explicitly, they do it for political purposes, not for the benefit of the people, not to make the situation more fair, but they do it almost exclusively to the benefit of themselves by creating an environment that creates winners and losers. And it's disgraceful. I wish more people were paying attention to what happens in the legislature, because I think that people would be disgusted with it. Look, one thing that gives me hope, Gary, just talking about all of these different issues, whether it's elections or the electric bills or whatever it is that people are angry. And I think people are angry across the spectrum. That includes not just Republicans and unaffiliated voters. It includes Democrats. And people are angry at the notion that they're being asked to pay for electric bills that someone else didn't pay for. I mean, that's socialism. That's exactly what it is. So when you have Democrats angry at socialism, and I'm talking about Democrat voters, the Democrat majority in Hartford should be sweating, because that means that they're obviously not selling their ideology. They're winning elections.
But Rob, the bottom line is they're going to win again. They win. I mean, these people are just going to vote. I'm not disagreeing with you, but the proof is in the pudding. Don't be saying you're disappointed and I'm upset, I'm going to complain and bitch and moan on the sidelines, and then go vote for the very person who caused your anger in the first place. Because that's madness. That's exactly what's happening.
Right. Well, I mean, a couple of things have to happen. I mean, we were talking earlier about, hoping to see Republican majorities in our lifetime. I think that can happen. But, one of the problems we have is that we have a very weak Republican Party in the state of Connecticut. And I didn't come on to hammer the Republican Party or anything. But the fact of the matter is you have to be in a position to take advantage of a situation. Like right now, we have a situation. We have a situation where you have the governor of the state of Connecticut who's leading the Democrat Party, basically saying, I know there's a huge problem out there, but you know what? I don't care. I don't want to fix it. If Republicans were in a strong position right now, we could pick up a tremendous number of seats, I think. The problem is we don't have candidates running in a lot of places, and that's inexcusable in my mind. The party is the mechanism responsible for making sure we are in a position to win when the time comes. When we have an amazing candidate for governor, for example, that is going to take the party to new heights and have a lot of strong coattails. In that case, you need to have candidates running. You can't win an election. You can't take a majority unless you have the people in place to actually win those seats. So I put a lot of pressure on my colleagues to help with this all the time. We have got to be working together to find people, and we can't be finding them 2 weeks before Election Day. You got to find them a year before Election Day. So if there's people listening, by the way, who've always had an interest in running for office and they think they'd be a strong candidate, they should reach out. They should reach out to somebody right now. Reach out to me if you want. More than happy to share my contact information, or contact Gary and put him, have him put you in touch with me. We can make it happen.
I was reading something I'm running out of time, too. I was reading on something on social media over the weekend. Help me get through over the threshold. Help me meet my fundraising criteria. I'm like, we're heading into Labor Day and you haven't met your fundraising criteria? That's sad. If I got to March 1st without reaching my fundraising criteria, I'd be upset with myself. Forget about September, but I digress. Hey, listen, we're going to get you in studio for the full hour taking questions from listeners. What, October 11th, right?
I'm looking forward to it. Can't wait.
I thank you so much for your time this morning. We can't wait neither. You have a great weekend.
You as well, Gary. Thanks so much.
Buddy.